Hi, this is Curt Robbins from Higher Learning LV in Las Vegas, and welcome back to Season 2 of Curt's Cannabis Corner. This week, our discussion topic is cannabis for inflammation. And we've brought in Dr. Sunil Pai, a medical doctor from New Mexico, and he has written a book, critically acclaimed book in 2016 called An Inflammation Nation. Thank you for taking the time, Dr. Pai.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So tell us a little more about the book and your overall approach to using botanical sources like hemp and cannabis to treat. Aren't there thousands of diseases and conditions based in inflammation?
Absolutely. And, in 22 years of practice as an integrative medicine physician, it just came upon, my practice of understanding, can we get at the root cause of most, if not all diseases, and that's inflammation. And now we know that, with more immunological sciences and the way we can test things, everything has an inflammatory trigger at the end of the day. And so, I always look at inflammation just being the word itis, I-T-I-S, which means phlegm or fire. And then we have 200 different diseases now that end with the word itis. So, inflammation of your joints, we call it arthritis. Inflammation of your skin, we call it dermatitis. Inflammation of your colon, colitis. Inflammation of your prostate, prostatitis, or sinusitis, and esophagitis, and gastritis. So there's 200 different itises.
Right.
And the challenge that with conventional medicine was like, we kind of dissect the person into multiple specialities, and then they treat the symptoms. And why not look at, from an integrated perspective, we're always looking at what is the underlying triggering mechanism of that dysfunction or imbalance, and let's resolve it. The body has an immense ability to heal itself. You just have to give it the guidance and the right proper tools. And so
Right.
my book focuses on what I call the 10 steps to help basically prevent, reverse, and treat almost every single disease through diet, lifestyle, and natural anti-inflammatories. And it's following what we consider epigenetics, which is diet, lifestyle, environment, and belief system. And those epigenetics, if people do the right type of epigenetics, the right type of diet, lifestyle, environment, and belief system, that helps the body heal in its maximum capacity.
Mr. Rhines, what do you think about all this?
I think it's just an overwhelming topic, kind of blown away really by what you just said. It's interesting to me that you start off with inflammation as the cause. I've always thought, and I guess been schooled, that inflammation was always a symptom. And I'm wondering then the relationship between inflammation and the controlling mechanisms, and is that the endocannabinoid system, or is it a combination of all the systems, and how are they interrelated?
It's a combination of all of them, because there's not that, when it comes to inflammation or inflammatory pathways, there's hundreds of them. And so, unfortunately, from a conventional pharmaceutical model or a drug model, we kind of look at a certain single amount of pathways. Right? So here's a COX-2 inhibitor, for example. Here's an ibuprofen or Celebrex or a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. But although they may be helpful in certain levels, they also have side effects on many levels. And so they're very targeted, but they're not broad spectrum in a way. And then when we look at, most of these drugs, for example, like NSAIDs, we call them non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, ibuprofen, Motrin, Advil, those kind of things like that, Aleve, naproxen, there's no healing effect. So, we can treat a symptom all day, but we're not actually healing the body. And so it's kind of what it does, these things, is they actually mask the symptoms of what's triggering the inflammation. And no one's ever investigating, well, why is this person inflamed? And so those triggers are coming from diet and lifestyle usually. And then there's environmental issues and stress and whatnot like that.
So is one of the problems that we're not getting down to root cause, and therefore we can't properly diagnose or treat or see the mechanisms at play?
The system has never been created to really look at root cause in America. That is, like we're really good at treating symptoms. So, we come out with a new Band-Aid every day. You look on the television, there's some kind of new drug. Now there's biologics, and we have about 150 in the pipeline now in stage 3, stage 4 clinical trials. So every day is a new kind of, immunomodulator biologic that's reducing inflammation in a specific area for your disease. But what you want to look at is what can you do just holistically, that is just what is causing that. And so we always look at those triggers in our practice.
So more of a systemic approach.
Yes. And so to answer the question about the endocannabinoid system is one of the systems of the body's immune system reactions that has to deal with more of what I consider the fighting and fixing and the maintenance of immunological function, or more importantly, balance. And so, because in the endocannabinoid system, there are certain receptors, there are certain enzymes, protein channels, transporters, ion channels. So it's not just a switch. Everybody thinks it's just a switch, but there's actually hundreds of more other processes that are not just that one switch going up or down. And when we're looking at affecting immunomodulation, some of it you want to be hyper and some of them you want to be hypo. So again, it's not just everything we want to turn on or everything we want to turn off. And so there's a complexity with the endocannabinoid system, but we look at all the things evidence-based and what we can do to not only document and evaluate what is triggering inflammation in the patient, like food sensitivities and microbiome dysfunctions and those kind of things, and environmental toxicities, but then it's removing those triggers and rebalancing that, and then using the right type of products, hemp being one or cannabis being one of those, as well as all the other evidence-based therapies that are out there.
Alana, you know, both professionally and personally, a lot of medical patients, and a lot of their conditions and disease states are based on inflammation. What do you think about all this?
Maybe about 10 years ago, that concept really came, into my life. And before that, I think the word inflammation probably entered my lexicon as a young runner. When I started, let's say in high school, I was pretty young. This was pre-cannabis consumption. We knew inflammation as something that, blew up your leg muscles and really heat them up and caused injuries sometimes. And this was combated with rest, of course, ice, and Advil, copious amounts of Advil or another such medication. It wasn't until later that food became part of the equation, kind of taking a more holistic perspective on what inflammation is, where it comes from, and how to create homeostasis within your body. It wasn't until really recently that I realized that cannabis was also kind of part of the equation, or could be part of the equation in helping to create that homeostasis, that place where inflammation is kept at bay. In Canada, some brands are using minor cannabinoids. I know the article that you wrote mentions CBN, CBC, CBG. There are a couple of brands in Canada that are increasing brand recognition for these minor cannabinoids, and they have to do that through education. So that's becoming even clearer to people, and that's really interesting.
But the number one common use of a product as an anti-inflammatory is ibuprofen, for example, and 30% of the population take that on a daily basis. But what we now understand, and what the data will show, is that the NSAIDs actually cause an increased joint degeneration of your cartilage. And so the things that people take it for, arthritic pain or joint pain, or in our case, running, I'm getting, my legs are sore, my knees are sore. Over time, it actually increases the arthritis in the joint, because it actually causes degeneration of about 10 different factors of what causes the joints to be strong and healthy. We have to be looking at moving towards natural anti-inflammatories, which have more, not only just reducing the pain, but also have assistance in the healing process of either maintaining and preventing further degeneration. All aging is inflammation over time. The other thing is that we have to change the patient's diet, or the person's diet, because if they're eating a pro-inflammatory standard American diet, then they can take all the cannabis they want. It's still not going to give them the full benefit. So we always want to look at is optimizing, your body's a car. I always tell people, you want to be a Ferrari or a Ford. If you want to be a Ferrari, you got to put the right fuel in the car. You can't mess it up. If you put the wrong fuel, your engine pings. You got to go to the mechanic, and there's your list of stuff that you don't want to have done. Same thing with your body. You have to understand that you're either putting a pro-inflammatory food or an anti-inflammatory food, and that's just the answer to really pretty much everything I discuss with my patients. Really, you're going to a whole food plant-based diet at the end of the day if you want to go completely into an anti-inflammatory state. And in fact, where all these cannabinoids are coming from are plants. So we have to understand plant medicines and the complexity of it. But once you appreciate that, then also it's not only using the plants as medicine, but you're eating the food as medicine at the end of the day.
Can you talk a little bit about the use of supplements? I mean, you start with the 10 steps, which is essentially diet and exercise, and moving toward a plant-based lifestyle, because the article then focuses, and our orientation is oftentimes on these cannabinoids. So talk about how an individual who has a super complex set of systems with many pathways, how are we to know and properly administer single phytomolecule supplements or any dietary supplements.
For example, with our patients, aside of moving them plant-based, we actually measure the foods, look at sensitivities, looking at what triggers inflammatory response. Because the food either, because you can still be plant-based and still have inflammatory problems because your body doesn't like maybe an avocado or a kale or a tomato. Like, we don't know, right? So we want to look at from like a food sensitivity aspect, immediate and delayed, we call them. We look at microbiome function, because if something's wrong with the microbiome, how you even process any of the supplements or even drugs that they take or medications that they take, that is also altered, because 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So we evaluate all these things like nutrient contents, and we look at, toxicities, we look at all these things. But when it looks at using a single molecule, Curt will know my approach is usually is we kind of come up with a full holistic approach. It's nice when we actually standardize certain ingredients, right? Because we want to make sure that the potency and the purity is there. But then we also have to look at is that sometimes there's a double-edged sword. If you're using too much of a phytomolecule just being by a single agent, although it may have a stronger effect, similarly like a drug, it may have a stronger effect. It also can have a stronger side effect.
That's right.
Because I always look at when we're trying to get that magic bullet approach, then it's like if it hits on target, fantastic. If it's a little bit off target, collateral damage. I understand the industry right now wants to find the newest character of the family of cannabinoids, from hemp or from cannabis, and also synthesize what they can, because everybody has to reinvent a new product, a new market to stay ahead of the market. I think the market's oversaturated, so that's what we're trying to look at. I saw a patient the other day with Delta 8, and it was standardized exactly on the bottle. He was from Georgia, and so it's like, yeah, certain states are, if cannabis is illegal completely, then there's certain markets that are pushing a little bit more of these other products to hopefully kind of you can get in there. But I'm really cautious, because when we use sometimes single agents, then we know that that can be a misinterpretation by the immune system, because it's not naturally supposed to be given in that way. Certain products, we like to standardize, like certain supplements and certain agents that are natural. I look at more of the CBD compounds as more as an immunotherapy than anything else. And so when you look at immunotherapy, we're looking at actually, whether the receptors are in an active or sleeping state, and that depends on the patient's disease condition. And so the dosing then is different than what most people think. Most people think, again, dose response curve, more disease, more you need. And in fact, what we've looked at in our clinical practice and what the literature is now saying is that it's almost like microdosing. It's almost like smaller doses, because we're stimulating immune system functioning. It's not like we're trying to pound more, like, oh, I have a headache, so I need to take more of this product. That's the wrong way to use, at least in my practice, and how we look at the science of looking at using the CBD products.
And very few thought leaders are discussing things like active versus resting or passive state receptors in the ECS. I know I talk to doctors and researchers all day long, and you're one of the few to ever discuss that topic.
When they do the research and they look at a tissue, like take a knee, for example, and if we were to look at the endocannabinoids that are being naturally produced in your body, and also just the receptors there, the receptors are like, CB1 and CB2 receptors, for example. I always use my hands, but they're like in a resting state. They're kind of just like sleeping. And so when there's less inflammation or less damage or trauma, those cells are turned off because they don't need to be active. Your immune system doesn't need to patrol along. So like, well, we'll keep a couple of police officers outside, or maybe a school crossing guard, right? If there's a little bit more trouble going on, to say the knee becomes osteoarthritic, then those receptors start to turn on and be a little bit more active. So now, okay, maybe I need to have a security guard come around at night to make sure everything's okay. Because they need to protect a little bit more, or defend more, or need to call the repairman because they need to have some damage there. But then as those receptors start turning on, so say someone has rheumatoid arthritis, those receptors are the most active, because that body's constantly under barrage. It's constantly inflamed. Again, diet, lifestyle, environment, belief system are the triggers here epigenetically. But the immune system's like, I need to fix, I need to fight, I need to maintain, I need to fix, fight, repair, fix, fight, repair. So those receptors are very active. When the receptors are very active, then actually less molecules, meaning less milligrams of the cannabinoids, are needed to trigger a response. And that's why people who have really bad flares, believe it or not, like how we treat, it's like we actually give them smaller doses than, say, Alana. She's running, she will have to take more because she's, I'm just looking at her, but she's healthier and younger and all this other stuff than, say, someone who has rheumatoid arthritis. So she would actually, in our practice, would actually have to take more milligrams of the products to actually notice a physiological benefit, whereas someone else who actually is having a flare actually needs to take less. The industry kind of likes to sell it the opposite way, because everybody thinks that, more is better and it's more good for sales. It's more, everything is just more is better for everything. It's America.
More is better for everything, and in terms of the laws too, medical cannabis versus adult use, the difference is usually just the higher percentage of normally THC. Talk to me about the belief, the fourth tendril there, the belief system in inflammation. Where's that play in?
So if you follow like the biology of belief, Bruce Lipton's work early on and stuff like that. Now we understand that it's the patient's belief system, because the body, the nocebo effect, for example, the body, we have to be out of this fear and stress trigger inflammatory responses. When we look at the biosphere studies where the people were put in that dome for several years, they're kind of like astronaut people, and when they control the air, the water, the food, so they're like laboratory rats, everything is perfect. But then when two of the people didn't get along and they measured all their inflammatory markers, it was off the chart.
That's right.
Right. So stress can cause. So right now, during the last 2 years, a lot of stress happening in the country, right? Economically and the pandemic stuff. So we can know that almost everybody on some level has more inflammation now. Now, how it may present might be more anxiety, more depression, more irritable bowel, more joint pain, more eczema, more headaches. But we all know that stress can cause it. So the belief system is important, because people need to understand that they're in charge of their body. And we need to make sure that they understand that body does have that innate ability to heal. When you cut yourself, you're not thinking about what it's doing, but your immune system is doing all sorts of things. Folks, a lot of times that we find out, especially with cancer patients or patients with chronic diseases or autoimmune diseases, they feel it's their fault. Like, oh, your body's attacking itself. And so therefore it's like this complete guilt on this patient. Like, what did I do? Or it's just forever is going to be that way. It's not true. We have to find the trigger. All autoimmune diseases are reversible. We have cases every day that we see, like lupus and MS, that get better. Like we actually can see neuro regeneration, part of the using of endocannabinoids of oligodendrocytes in the brain, remyelinating those sheets that are dysfunctional and interrupt. But when it's not there, the patient doesn't heal. I mean, that's just as so belief system is just as important as diet, because a lot of people, like, they can do all these wonderful things, but if they're completely stressed out or they don't even believe they can heal, then there's a limitation of that.
So healing requires optimism, perhaps?
Yeah, so that's where I want to get to. So you were talking about the negative, but what's the positive? Are you advocating for meditation? You're talking
meditation
about
is key.
metaphysical, physical.
The data will show that if you meditate and or having some kind of mindfulness, which affects heart rate variability, that those patients live the longest. So like in stage 4 cancer patients, regardless of therapy, people whose heart rate variability is in the zone, as we call it, in the meditative state, and there's all these devices now that can measure that, is that they live the longest, because when the person is balanced that way, there's less stress. If there's less stress, there's less inflammation in the body systemically. Then everything that you use works better. Conventional drugs work better. Even natural therapies work better.
In addition to meditation, what other practices?
Oh, yoga. I mean, I'm an Eastern guy, right? So we
So that's what I was going to say.
We use things that are like historically been using for thousands of years.
Yeah,
nobody tries to make
traditional.
This very traditional.
It's a traditional approach.
It's a very traditional approach, and it's free. It's easy. I know you don't have to buy some expensive technology. Everybody likes this concept of biohacking. In the last 5 years, you go to conferences, especially in Vegas, biohacking, and there's people making millions of dollars on biohacking. They're never successful at the end of the day, long term, because you can't biohack the body. What you have to do is you have to follow the laws of nature. But in order to achieve the optimum outcome, you have to understand the complexity of how things are.
But no silver bullet, and you have to take a systemic and holistic approach to achieve success, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. I look at it as a lot of people want this, fire hose, come in and just spray the fire. But again, you're a little bit off. The rest of the house is flooded. I like the sprinkler system approach. You're putting a little bit of fires out in all the different places, so nothing gets out of hand.
I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. I think Dr. Pai is spot on that we are living in an inflammation nation, and really an inflammation state. We're in a state of inflammation, and that is touching everything we do. I love his 10 steps. I'm going to go out and buy copies of this and send it out.
And trying to keep inflammation down and hoping that it contributes to life longevity, and not just life longevity, but like happy life longevity. And that it's not just about cannabis, it's about everything in your life, getting the sleep, getting some breath work in. I've got one of those biofeedback devices myself. If you want to take a break from your work day and have a few breaths with me, definitely give me a call at Alan Aldis.
Dr. Pai, thanks for your time and sharing your expertise. You have a very interesting book, An Inflammation Nation. You take a holistic approach where there's no silver bullet, and that's something that I personally appreciate. How can viewers learn more? Obviously, they can purchase your book.
Sanjevani.net, SANJEVANI.net. The book is also available. It's on Amazon. You can order it from our office on sanjevanistore.com, and we can get a signed copy. It's also on Audible and iTunes, so if people want to listen to it, it's like 14 hours, professionally read, which is nice.
I didn't know. Well, thanks to my co-host, Mr. David Rhines, Executive Director of the Marijuana Business Association in beautiful Seattle, Washington, and Alana Armstrong from the Alan Alda's PR agency in Toronto, Canada. And of course, our guest this week, Dr. Sunil Pai, author of An Inflammation Nation. It's a critically acclaimed book about how folks can improve their health through battling inflammation and trying to achieve that elusive homeostasis of the ECS. Thanks to everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Curt. Cut.